Okay, good morning, everyone. I don't even know if it's 9 o'clock yet. I may have jumped in a second or two early. I got criticized last week for starting a minute late, so I figured this week I'd start a minute early um, and mix things up. Okay, everybody, welcome to breakfast at Gatorchatter. Following USF, this is Aaron Bland. This is our second one. We had one last week for LIU, and it seemed to go pretty well. Had guest on Jason Walker. I'll have him on in a bit, and him and I discussed that in the following weeks, some of these podcasts may not be as positive, and of course, here we are. In watching the game last night, one thing really struck me at the end of the third quarter. USF had just taken the lead. It was a disaster. It wasn't looking good. Florida was doing what they often do under Billy Napier. Yet during the third to fourth quarter, the Gators fans did their won't back down thing, and they all got into it. 80,000 phones, and they sang, and whether you agree with that tradition or not, they seem to love it. And I was struck by how great these fans are, despite what they're seeing on the field. As the fourth quarter started, they were roaring, they were deafening, they were doing everything they can to help the Gators win in a game that the Gators should have won easily. So one thing that really struck me last night was, man, the fans really deserve better. They really deserve better than what they've been getting for many years now, even before Billy Napier. But when the game was over, I had little reaction. There was no screaming or yelling or throwing anything at the TV. And the fact that there was so little reaction tells you a lot about where we are as a program, where when something like this happens, no one's really surprised and no one gets nearly as upset as they used to. And what's funny is going into the season, there was all these, predictions on how many games Florida would win, and no one really had any idea. But they ranged anywhere from 4 wins, generally to 8 wins. But even the people that predicted Florida would have a 4-win season, a 4-8 regular season, predicted that this USF game would be one of those wins. And Florida couldn't even pull this one out. For our fourth straight season, we're now 1-1 after 2 games under Billy Napier, which means that our season already looks like a lost one early. Can't even pull off a 2-0 start, and after 40 games, he's 20-20. And I don't think that. I think that the Florida Gators fans and alumni deserve more than a 500 coach. After 40 games, there really isn't any arguments left as to what we're getting. There are no excuses left. Billy Napier was given everything he asked for when he was hired. The facilities are in place. The money is in place. The number of assistants is in place. The number of staff. All the recruits on the roster are his. They don't belong to Dan Mullen or anyone else. So there's what is left for Billy Napier to do, to say. There isn't anything. So that's where we are as a program. And throughout the game, they kept interviewing Billy Napier, which is something no one really wanted to see. Between quarters, no one wanted to see Billy Napier speak. And it was, what's going on, Billy? And he kept saying, all these uncharacteristic mistakes. Uncharacteristic. He must have said it 3 or 4 times. And everybody's thinking, how are these uncharacteristic? This isn't uncharacteristic at all, the kinds of mistakes that are being made in terms of lousy play calling and clock management and substitutions. We have Jaden Baugh has 51 yards on the opening drive, and they decide to take him out. Let's put someone else in. It was working too well. The first drive was all right. We get down, it stalled, we kicked a field goal, no big deal. It happens, but it certainly looked like the kind of night where Florida would be able to score some points. And when the second quarter rolls around, the Gators kind of go into this lull, and everybody can feel it. And it's like some kind of black cloud comes down over the team, and everybody goes, oh boy, here we go. Nothing can seem to go right. Silly mistakes start being made on both sides of the ball. Overall, the defense played well enough to win. But USF's only touchdown was where they caught our defense off guard, and our two defenders, ran into each other and fell down. It's exactly the kind of thing, though, you expect. We've seen it over and over and over again. And after no penalties in week 1, we have 11 yesterday. Now, and Florida got screwed a little bit on their touchdown. But no one is using the ref's excuse after this one. The fact is, a few mistakes by the refs shouldn't have mattered. This was a game Florida should have won easily. Florida was favored 18.5. They should have covered that. I thought they would cover that. I was silly and naive. DJ Lagway looked a little tentative. He can't. My issue with him is it seems like his footwork is terrible. He doesn't get his feet in any of his throws, and that affects his accuracy. He threw a few good balls that were dropped. And what do Billy Napier teams do? They let the opposition hang around. We get down, we get field goals instead of touchdowns. And the opposition just hangs around until the inevitable end when, we saw what happened, unfortunately. And things like the final drive, the spitting incident. This, of course, is the most critical time of the game. We stop them and the game is over. And just 2 days ago, 2 days prior, in the NFL, the first game of the season, Eagles and Cowboys, Thursday night. Everyone's watching in the country, and Jalen Carter gets kicked out of the game before it starts by spitting on Dak Prescott. Ejected. And it kind of brought spitting back into the conscience of the fans. That's a big no-no. That's going to get you tossed every time. It was right there in everyone's mind. And by God, if we don't have some guy step up and just didn't think anything of it at the most critical time of the game. Would that happen under a team coached by Urban Meyer or Nick Saban? I just don't think so. The players know there's such heavy consequences for stupidity like that. It's ingrained into them that it wouldn't happen. Now, I have plenty more to say, and I could go on longer. I don't know how much you want to listen to of that. But instead, I'm going to bring in Jason Walker. I have not spoken to Jason about his thoughts on the game. And I don't really have to ask him any questions. I'm just going to bring him on and let him go. Let me just put these on. Jason, welcome back to Breakfast to Gatorchatter.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask you a question. Go.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything you said, obviously, that you hit on so many points, Aaron, but the fact is there's even more out there to hit on. And this game just encapsulated all things Napier that folks were concerned about and were hoping that had been overcome in as the end of last season progressed, and with Lagway as starting quarterback, there were they call it everyone's calling it the Napier tax, and maybe Lagway's just better than the Napier tax. But the fact was, like you said, first DJ Lagway was not good at all. You're right. He didn't set his feet. He kind of looked like when Rex Grossman had Zook as his coach and there was no foot up his butt to play top-notch quarterbacking. Grossman would throw off his back foot, and suddenly a Heisman Trophy candidate was, had the same amount of interceptions and touchdowns in a season. So it kind of reminded me of that as I watched DJ Lagway, completely inaccurate, completely upset. And the fact of the matter is, we were just 1 week removed, Aaron, from seeing, Tramel Jones come in and play good quarterback. If this were Steve Spurrier, right, we know what would have happened. As soon as Lagway threw that underthrown interception, Spurrier would have had him on the bench, and we would have seen another quarterback. When it was clear Lagway didn't have it. That has nothing to do about Lagway as a person. It just physically, he wasn't ready. Like you said, the footwork was bad. Everything was bad. His decision-making was bad. We saw toward the end that critical... the critical sequence near the fourth quarter, the 2-minute mark, when we only took like 25 seconds off the clock on their first down, it looks like he switches to throw the football because he's got one-on-one. A terrible throw to the outside, which is low percentage, and would have carried the receiver out of bounds anyway. And those kind of things, Lagway just didn't have it. But that's Napier. He set right from the get-go, Aaron, Napier set the tone. How did he set the tone? Jaden Ball was dominating on that first drive. You said it. You thought he'd have 100 yards by the end of the first quarter. The fact is, he didn't even reach 100 yards for the game. Billy pulled the plug, did some sort of threw the pass to Livingston, which was a tough catch anyway for a tight end. Lagway threw the ball, too far to the sidelines. But they went away from Ball. And, of course, they have this little league, this Pop Warner style substitution pattern where everybody plays. Let's make sure everybody gets some snap count. It costs the momentum in there. Ball was dominant on that first drive. Should have just shoved it all the way down and scored a touchdown. What is the point of trying to prove how good a play caller you are when you're not? It was terrible, and that set the tone for the rest of the game. Bad holding penalties on there. Yeah, the offensive pass interference call on Hayden Hansen that cost a Livingston touchdown. It's a questionable call, but like you said, that shouldn't have anything to do with the Gators winning this football game. Billy Napier coaches like his roster is under-talented no matter who he's playing. No matter who he's playing, he's going to coach the same way. This kind of hide behind the pillar type of offense where you try to sneak things through instead of lining up with your over-talented roster and blowing teams away. It's a mentality. He some kind of underdog mentality, and it costs Florida constantly in execution. Just so many things that were so bad. And the offensive structure. We don't spread the field. We have all the speed and talent. We don't spread the field at all. Everything's condensed. Just makes it even easier. We toss to the short side of the field. We constantly tie our hand behind our back when we play, and we saw that there. So this was completely on Billy. Even in the last drive, Aaron, talking about the substitution patterns. Even on the last drive, with the game on the line. He's just rotating guys in. We don't even have Sapp in. There's no winning mentality here. It is, I'm going to show how smart I am out here. And the fact is, he shows how smart he is every week out there. Shows how smart he is, or how lack of smart he is, by trying all of this different stuff that always amounts to a very inconsistent, uneven, and lack of excellence performance.
Well, and, USF has the ball at the end of the game. We have the spitting incident. And then we have an issue where they hand off to a guy who we have 5 yards in the backfield who breaks 5 tackles and goes 30 yards. And at that point, they're going to get at least a field goal. So Napier needs to start managing the clock because we're going to need the ball back, you would think. Right. I remember looking at my wife saying, shouldn't Napier take a timeout here? Tick-tock, tick-tock. Or let them score anything but let the clock run down to 3 seconds and give them a chip shot field goal.
time management has always been one of Billy's problems out there, and it showed again on there, even at the end of the first half. Aaron, we rush a third down play before the 2-minute warning. We rush it. There's no reason to rush the snap there. Did Lagway see something there? Well, whatever he saw, it was wrong, because we end up getting tackled near the line of scrimmage, and we don't even get the benefit of that. The time management is a huge issue, and you're right. At the end of the game, well, first of all, the possession before, like I talked about, with 2 passes. When we're trying to run out the clock, I assume that's what Billy likes doing, try to hold on to the win. Even after that, they're down there. You have 2 options if you're Billy Napier down there, and he chose neither of them. You either let them score and get the ball back, which would probably been the right thing to do. Take no more time off the clock, save your timeouts, or you call timeouts. At that point in the game. But he did neither. He let them run down, and Billy employed the old cross your fingers strategy of the Grammatica kid, which, by the way, side note, I thought we were done with that family. Martine Grammatica, Bill Grammatica, everything else, but Nico. And just hoping he'd miss. And he didn't. The whole team wasn't sharp. Billy was terribly unsharp. Lagway wasn't sharp. The whole team wasn't sharp. The defense missed a ton of tackles. Even Rocco Underwood, who is rock solid as a long snapper. That was the margin of victory. Him snapping the ball 7 miles behind the punter for a safety. Margin of victory. 2 points.
Well, when I talked about the dark cloud that comes over
yes.
the team during these games, even guys that don't normally make mistakes start making them, and that was a perfect example of everything just boom, 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 and we snapped the ball over the guy's head. Was anyone surprised?
No, because when you play that that narrow margin of error type game that Billy likes to play, let's have 15 play drives. That's a winning formula. No, what it means is that there's so many points of failure. You have to execute brilliantly to deliver on that all the time. And that just means, well, we're not going to make any mistakes. Well, mistakes happen. You have to overcome that. The great thing about Spurrier's offenses was that, you could take big chunks of yardage. We were never concerned with 3rd and 16 because we knew we could get it. We knew we could get it. And now, we get a 5-yard penalty, which happened a lot. Penalties were a big momentum killer in a lot of that, and especially on that first drive, and when we didn't go back to ball. And then, of course, you have to rotate because it's in contract. That's why. And things start snowballing. Pressure starts getting tighter. Everybody knows that the margin for error isn't there. So then they get tight, and things like that happen in there. And of course, one mistake in one of those, play for one score, that Tony Dungy, Tampa Bay Buccaneers style of football, that is a recipe for one mistake costing you the game, much less a dozen.
It's not new. This has happened for 4 years now. So you and I could sit here and break down the silly game last night for an hour, but it's pointless.
Right.
The question is, what do we do going forward? I mean, even looking at the rest of the schedule, even Mississippi State beats a ranked Arizona State last night. There are no gimmies left. We got 10 games left, and we could lose all 10.
Well, this is the Billy Napier curse, right? Because this was the way it was last year when he was on the ropes. And of course, Bill, depending on who you hear from, that's when Billy saved his job by saying, I'll hire play caller next year, which he didn't do. But this is the curse of Billy Napier. Any week you could win, you could lose. Everything's on the table. And that's what can happen. So, now we go in, definitely going to lose. Well, not so fast. I mean, they've shown that they can beat teams. They've got the talent to beat teams. It's just a matter of things lining up. It doesn't matter whether he's under-talented or over-talented. It's going to be the same thing, and you have a pretty good shot at winning no matter what. But that's not the point, Aaron. I mean, that's not what you want at the University of Florida. You don't want, maybe we'll win, maybe we'll lose. You can't have that at this university.
It would be just like Billy Napier to bring our Gators into Baton Rouge this upcoming week at night and win.
Right.
And that wouldn't surprise anyone either. It really wouldn't. And then we lay an egg the next week. We can't keep doing this. The fans can't handle this anymore.
Well,
let me ask you about Scott Strickland, Jason.
Sure.
He got a contract extension the day before the season started. Okay, which was obviously deliberate. They didn't want this season to reflect on him. They gave him the extension ahead of time. But he has to feel more emboldened that his job is no longer tied to Billy Napier. It's Billy's fourth year. Does his contract extension maybe give him more courage to finally make the move?
Yeah, I think, yes, I do think that. He did let Dan Mullen go in the fourth year. After Mullen, it was very clear things weren't changing under Dan Mullen. Dan was driving down the hillside by the time that South Carolina game rolled around. And after that game's end, I think that Billy will give Strickland a few more data points this year to let him go. But he's not letting him go this week. It's not going to happen. That's not happening. That's not happening. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Billy Napier tried to pause the pitchforks by announcing that Russ Callaway is going to call plays the rest of the year. I wouldn't be surprised. Just to take some of the air out of the pressure, he's going to buy some time saying, all right, I'll let somebody else call plays. And I'm going to focus on the overall quality of the football. And I'm going to let Russ call plays from now on. I wouldn't be surprised about that. But, yes, for those that say, oh, he's never going to fire Napier, that's not true. He's got this big stadium renovation that he wants to do. It's going to co-terminate with his 2030 departure, the end of his run, which he's already signaled that's the end of his tenure because he's got that 5-year pay me no-show type thing in his contract. Unbelievable on there. But no, he's totally okay. The problem is, he's the one hiring the next guy too. But remains to be seen. I do, but no, he's definitely emboldened by that extension. He definitely can make one more hire as the University of Florida athletic director, and obviously I think he will.
Well, in order for the plug to finally be pulled, we have to endure some more losses like last night.
Yep.
But again, it would be just like Billy to bounce back and win a game he shouldn't, and we go, oh, here we go, let's keep him a while longer. It's obvious at this point, Jason, we're 40 games in. He is not the long-term answer. We cannot keep doing this.
That's right.
I'm not going to sit here and pray for losses, but I mean,
no.
Maybe the football gods will intervene. I don't know. I think our rivals are laughing at us right now.
Right. Oh, yeah. I don't think they were bought in. Nobody was bought in. When guys like Pate came out and said 9 wins, there are plenty of folks like the Gator Nation is the only one in the entire world that will tell people to pump the brakes on easy there, cha-cha. No one's buying this. And the ones that are wanted to get excited, and that's fine. But games like this last one is so characteristic. He wants to say uncharacteristic, but like you said, very characteristic of the Billy Napier era in there. Billy Napier, Aaron, is the George Costanza of football coaching. Every single instinct that guy has is wrong.
He should do the opposite.
They did the opposite. Oh, let's rush this. Let's blow this 2-minute warning. Let's not use our timeouts properly. Let's do this instead of this. And, sometimes it, he, like you said, you could argue he had 3 plays that he called that should have been touchdowns in there. But the fact is, there's so much inconsistency that those 3 high points don't make up for the 20 low points. And those 20 low points kill that. So, yes, what last week showed is that nothing's been learned. There's no reflection on it. He likes his own reflection. This is the most selfish head coaching I've seen at the University of Florida. Selfish, because there was something he could have done to move things forward, but he was so convinced of his own excellence that he put himself ahead of his program. And that's what's going to kill Billy Napier in the end.
Well, part of me thinks he's ready to go. I mean, he could have hired an OC in the offseason, which would have made people think that at least he's trying something. He declined, and I don't see him saying, "Oh, I'm going to give it to Callaway now." He's decided to live and die on that hill. And a lot of people made the comment last night that it's just like the job is too big for him. When the ball's kicked off, he's out of his league. That's maybe he's good at these small schools, but not University of Florida.
You could argue that he's done a lot of good for the back office, the infrastructure, some of the coordination, the setup on that. But it really, all of that doesn't matter when your on the field effort is terrible. It just kills everything else. Everybody appreciates better recruiting. It's not top, not championship level recruiting, but it's better for sure. And the way that he structures a roster is much better than the Mullen-Grantham era in there. But so what? So what? It doesn't matter when you've got the top quarterback, Todd Class, playing like a third stringer out there. It's horrible. He needs to do the opposite of everything he thinks about doing to try to get back on track. And the first step of that is letting somebody else call plays the rest of the year. Unbelievable.
Let's just touch briefly on LSU. There's no one in America is going to expect us to win.
Right.
So, fine.
Yep.
LSU played terrible last night. They struggled with Louisiana Tech. They won by 16 points. I think they were favored by 40 or something like that. At any rate, I was looking at the box score, and they didn't pass the ball well. They rushed for 3.8 yards a carry. This is not an unbeatable team.
Right.
Any expectations for this week, Jason?
Well, look. When we got the ball down at the end at the USF, we got the ball inside the 20. There was a moment of clarity. We're like, you know what we should probably do? Just bang ball into the end zone, and then they score on a Spurrier slant. There was a moment of clarity in there, and so yeah, I mean the defense played well enough to win. They can play well enough to win against LSU. But there has to be a commitment to having your best players on the field at all times. None of this junior varsity, make sure Aaron Bland gets his snaps out there to try to develop things. You got to win now, man. So, yeah, they can go in. The talent is there. The talent is there to beat LSU, to beat anybody on the schedule.
You want to win now. You would think that would be his mentality if he wants to keep his job. You would think that, but a part of me thinks that he's just home. I've got a 10-year plan. Maybe that's what he's been told by his bosses. I don't know.
No, it's over. I mean, he's got to, it's over. Whatever sort of urgency that was felt when he was on the ropes last year, he needs, should have been feeling from the get-go. But clearly, this game showed it wasn't there. Yes, they can go into LSU and win. Yes, they shouldn't be favorites by anything. And yes, they should be, a considerable underdog playing in Death Valley at night. But, I mean, none of us would be surprised to see the Gators come out on top. As Gator fans, we'll pull for it. I don't think there's any saving his job. So even those that just kind of hope the knife gets plunged a little deeper into Billy, I don't see it happening unless they win every game. And they're not going to win every game because of this inconsistency in there. So we can go into each week thinking, we've got the talent to win. Maybe we'll win. But there, unfortunately, will be more games like this where we come up short because Mr. Margin for Error, Mr. One score game, is going to lose more than he wins because he's not good.
He's got a $20 million buyout, which by today's standards is low. I remember us wringing our hands back in 2014 or whatever it was when Will Muschamp had a $7 million buyout. We couldn't believe he'd been given $7 million to fail.
Right.
And that's a laughable number now. So the buyout's not an issue. No. Now, Jay, let's just say for the sake of argument, we fire Billy in the next month or two. And what are your feelings on another hire? Just give me an overall view of what you think.
Well, I mean, I think that, first of all, the buyout isn't an issue. They raised the money last year when it was even more. They raised the money last year to kick them out. I think there's even more of an appetite when you lose the USF at home. That might raise a couple extra coins also. But the next hire, I'd like to think, and we all say this, I'd like to think there's a more innovative play caller out there in there. And of course, we're going to hear the usual names floated for this. In fact, your favorite name, Lane Kiffin. Folks are going to want Lane Kiffin. But what is it about Lane Kiffin that people want? Killer attitude, offense, and that. So whether you get Lane Kiffin or not, trying to identify a coach that fits that criteria, I think, is going to be at the top. None of this one-score game, maybe we'll win, let's fight, and everybody plays. But kind of coaching usually goes the other direction. So you go for somebody that's the opposite of that. Somebody that goes for the throat. Somebody that scores a ton of points and doesn't leave so much for errors. So that if you do make errors, it's all right on there. I think that's what Gator Nation would be looking for, and I think that's what any athletic director would do as a knee-jerk reaction to that. We look at the basketball program. Mike White, who's a very much like a Billy Napier type coach, right? Could lose to anybody, could beat anybody. At home, away, doesn't matter. Not a winner. Couldn't win like that. So what did they do? They went out and got a guy that's really the opposite. A young, dynamic, analytics type of basketball coach. Now they went in and did that. So I'm hoping that they can do the same kind of thing for the football hire in there, and I would expect that's what they would do.
Well, apathy is at an all-time low. Even last night in that hideous loss, the reaction on Gatorchatter was far more restrained than I was expecting and what I'm used to. People were kind of, no one was surprised, and that's bad,
right,
Jason. It used to be that people had to be hospitalized after games like there was property damage and all kinds of terrible things
right.
after a loss like this. I remember when we were watching in the 90s when there was a loss, it was like all of Gainesville. It was a funeral, when we had one loss. But
that's right.
Whoever they hire can't be just some nobody. Lane Kiffin. We can talk about Lane Kiffin, but at least he's a name. He gets attention. He makes people look and say, "Oh, go look who the Gators are." It's we need something, Jason. And at this point, the expectations would be lower so much. We'd settle for just not being embarrassing all the time. Last night was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Right.
We get tired of this feeling.
Another
I can't believe we're having this conversation. Honestly,
another historic game under Billy Napier, and we're kind of tired of our of folks coming in doing something they've never done before, and I agree. I mean, it is embarrassing. Well, we've been embarrassed so much by the University Athletic Association. We've been embarrassed by the athletic directors, Foley and Strickland. We've been embarrassed by the product on the field so many times. It's numbing. You're absolutely right. We can all point to LSU in '97 or some Auburn in '94. Some games that we felt like we shouldn't have lost. Under the Spurrier era, or the Ole Miss game under Urban Meyer. By the way, did DJ Lagway have a big message for us after the game? Did he swear that nobody? Did he give a Tebow speech afterwards? I don't think so. In there, but we remember those games because the losses. You're right, were so poignant. They meant something. Now losses mean nothing. They're as common as anything else, thanks to Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen, and Billy Napier. What a murderer's row of bad coaching hires for the University of Florida.
Jay, thanks for coming on with us again. I don't know what the future of Breakfast at Gatorchatter holds. We'll determine as time goes on. I don't know if these after losses are therapeutic. If they offer some value to the people watching, I don't know. So
is it one last question though, Aaron, to you? Is it too soon to wonder who DJ Lagway is going to win a Heisman Trophy for down the road? I think not. I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah, will DJ Lagway be our quarterback next year? That's another question. And maybe he's not the savior we thought he was after all. I don't know. It's a little early, but
It proves everybody needs work to be
yeah.
sharp. And I think the Grossman thing under Zook is an apropos comparison, because that's what I saw yesterday. I saw a guy that was not sharp, was very loose with his mechanics, and like the rest of the team, we got what we saw. Shame on you, Billy Napier.
Jay, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Until next time. Okay, that was Jason Walker, and we've gone on long enough. I think we've vented quite a bit there and covered where we are. This game coming up this week is going to be interesting. Will the team just give up and lay down and let LSU just stomp them to the ground? Will they keep it close? Will they come out and beat them? I don't know. I'm certainly not predicting a win, that's for sure. But a win wouldn't surprise me, just like a loss wouldn't surprise me. So we'll keep an eye on the situation. We'll have our usual fun conversation about who will Florida hire next. Seems like we've had this conversation every year since 2010. And we're going to have it here again. Some of the coaches we were debating about back in 2010 are long retired by now. This has been going on so long. So thanks, everybody, for listening, the people that tuned in. And I'll see you on Gatorchatter. Please join us throughout the week. If nothing else, we are there as a friendly ear. If you want to vent, get it off your chest. A lot of people have avoided property damage and violence towards others after these hideous games because they can come on Gatorchatter and let it all out in a safe and constructive way. So, thanks everybody, and have a terrific week.